I don't think anybody would deny it. Not only is he the greatest light heavyweight ever, he looks like the greatest heavyweight ever too. So there were a couple of interviews leading up to this fight where he was saying, I'm going to make this look easy. And I thought that was a silly thing to say. The guy is unbelievable, man. He really is.
The legendary career of Jon Jones as the greatest one himself is enriched with events and quite extraordinary. For more than 10 years of total dominance, Bones did a lot of things and noise in the fighting industry. Indeed, you know all of that yourself. But today we prepared a compilation of facts about the best fighter regardless of weight category that not everyone has heard of. And maybe by the end of that video, you will look at Jon Jones from a slightly different angle. Please don't forget about the likes, comments with 4 words and subscribe to the channel. Here we go. Number 10. Nationality. Let's start with a fact about which Bones himself found out just recently. According to the information from Open Access, it is known that Jonathan Dwight Jones was born on June the 19th of 1987 in Rochester City, New York. The athlete spent his whole life in the USA, where he studied, worked and learned the basics of different sports. Basically, the true American. However, in summer of 2020, Bones suddenly shared interesting news through his Instagram post. He decided to take a DNA test for his ethnic background, and here's what he got. Quite an interesting find, don't you think? All more so because at the moment of the post publication, people were actively arguing in the comments about a possible relation between Jon and one of his enemies in the UFC, Israel Adesanya. Of course, all of that is speculation, but the same news has a screenshot which shows that Bones is 24% Cameroonian. It's interesting to see how would he react if he found out that Francis Ngannou is his distant relative. Number 9. Sports and Education. The next fact consists of 2, so to say. Jon Jones's family, where the guy was born and raised, has a rich sporting history. There is an opinion that people who grew up side by side with brothers often take the same path. Considering that they live in the same conditions and environment, their aspirations, goals and interests oftentimes overlap. Jon's 2 brothers spent a long time playing in the NFL, and a younger one called Chandler even succeeded at the Super Bowl.
We're always on the same team. But yeah, Chandler's an absolute stud. Arthur is an absolute stud. These guys are very, very gifted athletes, and I'm glad to be associated with them. You know, our goal is to make our last name a great last name, and my brothers have done a great job representing themselves. I'm so incredibly proud of both of those guys.
Speaking about Bones, even though he never had any ambitions towards football, the guy did not step away from a sports path. Before he got interested in MMA, Jon was headlong into wrestling. In early years, he had decent achievements both in high school and college. For example, it's known that as a student, Jon won the local championship among juniors, then the state's first division championship, and a regional Northeast championship in Greco-Roman wrestling among juniors. The whole point was in the competition. If His Highness joins the game, Bones does everything in his power to take the leading positions in the rankings. But you might ask, like, how is that related to the topic of education? Pretty simple is our answer. When Jon did wrestling in high school, he had a big potential, and most importantly, he liked what he was doing. However, after he finished school, the guy did not see prospects in that direction. Close at hand was an enrollment to a new educational organization. So, wrestling was the last thing the guy was thinking about. Luckily, the coach stepped in and inspired the teenager with an idea. If you get good enough, you can get a free education. And that's exactly what happened. Jones enrolled in the college with a full scholarship. Number 8. Coercive measure and an unusual method of training. In life, things do not always go according to plan, but definitely move in a particular direction. As you already know, at an early age, everything went without a hitch for Jon. He trained in wrestling, was getting a free education and even a scholarship. But at a certain moment, his life reached a breaking point. His girlfriend got pregnant and he found himself at the crossroads with a tough decision to make. Stay in college or move to New York to take care of his future family. Bones chose the second option. He dropped out of college, began to work as a bouncer and do everything to support the mother of his future child. On top of that, the guy started to take the first steps towards the goal of becoming a mixed martial artist. The beginner stage of Jones's career looked like this: a small garage where he did the main work, a couple of books on boxing and Muay Thai, and a phone on which the guy watched tutorials on YouTube. We have a short piece of interview in 2009. At the time, young prospect already joined the UFC and was looking to have his third fight against Jake O'Brien, in which he uncovered some of the details of his early preparation. By the way, Bones beat the aforementioned Jake O'Brien by a guillotine already in the middle of the second round. That happened to be the 9th win for the guy and the 3rd one in a row inside the UFC. Number 7. Daughter's name. Next fact we have is short but still important in terms of legendary Bones' life formation. The life of the greatest fighter of all time was not always rose-colored. He went through a couple of tough moments. The hardest one is his loss of a sister. In the year of 2000, his older sister Carmen passed away at the age of 18. She lost the battle to cancer a couple of years after she was given an incurable diagnosis. She is always present in Jon Jones' mind and heart. In her memory, he named his daughter after her.
Definitely in 2000, the oldest of us all, my sister, passed away within a 2 years' time of figuring out she had brain cancer. And it was really tough for us. You know, we pretty much had to raise ourselves for those 2 years, you know, cooking our own meals and you know, even putting tubes on her nose to give her Ensure medications and things like that. It was a lot for us. It grew us up really fast, and it made us really just appreciate every day and every relationship that we have.
Number 6. The best year in his career. Undoubtedly, the most fruitful and remarkable year on the professional journey of Jon Jones is 2011. Think about it. Since the moment of his debut in the World's Best League, which happened in August of 2008, Bones broke into the new organization as it was his home, and up until February of 2011 didn't know the taste of defeat with 6 wins. We don't account for the fight with Matt Hamill, but we will get back to it later. At UFC 216, Bones choked out Ryan Bader via guillotine and got as close to the coveted dream as he didn't even initially plan to. In the post-fight interview, Joe Rogan struck the prospect with the news that he would be given an opportunity to fight the champion.
Wants to give you the opportunity to face Shogun Rua for the light heavyweight championship of the world.
Everything aligned so well because Rashad Evans, who initially was supposed to face the Brazilian, got injured. The young contender was given an opportunity to fill that spot. Already a month later, Bones entered the octagon and stopped the champion via TKO in the 3rd round. He became the youngest UFC champion in history. But that's not the end. As it was found out later, Jones happened to be a witness of a robbery in one of the ghetto districts in New York and even stopped the criminal just a few hours prior to the title fight.
As the guy pulls us up in his car, he's like, you know, I'm in the passenger seat, Greg Jackson and Winklejohn's in the back seat. He's like, listen guys, before I drop you off here, I want to let you know this is a pretty bad neighborhood, so you might want to be careful. And I'm like, dude, we're at, you know, we're all MMA guys. And he's like, well, I'm just letting you know, a lot of people get mugged here. Just as he said that, I turned to pull off my seatbelt, and the guy, I see an old Spanish couple like screaming, and they're like running. They look like they're out of breath big time. And I'm like, dude, they just got mugged. And he's like, no. And I'm like, maybe not, I'm tripping. And you just put that in my mind. So Mike Winklejohn hops out of the car and he's like, you guys okay? And then she's like, you know, the guy he just broke my window open. And he took all my stuff and he's running. And he looks back and he usually sees me, you know, 6'4". You got Greg and Wink like behind us. Yeah, Greg and Wink's behind me, and I'm just running like, yo, you know I'm gonna catch you, right? So the guy looks back, and then he trips over his own foot. And so at the time he tripped over his own foot, I got so scared because I didn't know what I was gonna do when I actually caught him. So I actually like started barking like, I'm gonna get you, like, you know.
And to conclude this topic, in the same 2011 that soon delivered us the greatest title reign, Bones entered the cage 2 more times and dismantled 2 legendary veterans, Rampage Jackson and Lyoto Machida. So yes, 2011 can be recognized as the best year in the career of Jon Jones. Number 5. UFC tried to overturn his disqualification loss. As we promised, let's get back to the guy who beat Jon Jones in his professional career. Meet a great and terrifying Matt Hamill. In the finale of The Ultimate Fighter's 10th season, he was up against the rising and hungry for legacy Bones. This fight didn't even last a round, it was already over at 4 minutes and 14 seconds. During this whole time, Jones was mercilessly beating his vis-a-vis up and confidently moving towards the finish. But one single mistake changed everything, an illegal 12-6 elbow. Steve Mazzagatti, who judged that fight, immediately stopped it and gave Prospect an upsetting loss via disqualification. Later, the UFC president spent a long time trying to argue with the final outcome, and the last time he made a request was in 2021, but unsuccessfully.
Pound for pound right now, who is the best fighter in the sport?
It would have to be Jon Jones. I mean, realistically, it's Jon Jones has never, you look at all the people that he's fought, he's never lost a fight. It kills me that one is on his record, 26-1. You have to understand, for the people that don't know, this was during a time when the Nevada State Athletic Commission was very weak. And there was a referee in there that stopped the fight and called Jones the loser in that fight. A fight he was dominating and should have been finished. Instead of, disqualifying Jones, they should have stopped the fight. And Jones right now really should be 27-0.
He was.
I fought hard to try to get that one taken off his record, but, I haven't been able to get it done. It's horrible. It's a referee that I said a million times should not even be in the octagon reffing.
Sure, it's sad for Jon, but to be honest, it doesn't really matter, because smart fans know that if it wasn't for the stoppage, he would have scored a crushing victory. Number 4. Jon Jones was very close to losing against Chael Sonnen. Surprised? Actually, things are a lot more simple than they seem. You don't need to rush to the comment section and say that we got it wrong, thanks. So, in April of 2013, Bones was planning to defend his World Championship for the 5th time. In the main event of UFC 159, he clashed with the main gangster representative of all martial arts, in the face of Chael Sonnen. The stakes were high as always, because the main advantage of Sonnen was that before the fight, he made it crystal clear on how he was going to beat the greatest.
Joe, I don't promote fights, I pick fights. I'm better than Jon Jones, I'm better than Sean Combs, I am even better than John Holmes.
John Holmes is a dead junkie, and Sean Combs is like a rapper. Is that the other guy?
Don't bring up old business. The course is current events. FX Ultimate Fighter just before Justified Tuesday night.
Of course, the champion was dominating the contender for almost the whole first round, and with half a minute left, the fight was over due to a TKO in Jon's favor. But during that time, there was one sequence that almost led to Bones' defeat. It happened in one of the episodes when Jon was abutting against the canvas with his legs, and a toe on his left abruptly turned due to a fracture. And I hope you understand why we can't show you this moment. The guy didn't feel it in the heat of the moment and earned the victory before the first round ended. But if the fight went longer than that, Chael Sonnen would be awarded the victory on top of the championship.
A true champion, my friend, for even attempting to make this interview work while you're dealing with one of the nastiest foot injuries I've ever seen. Congratulations to you, sir. You are still the UFC light heavyweight champion and one of the baddest men on the planet, Jon Jones, ladies and gentlemen.
Number 3. We could have seen the dream fight.
Hey, I'm here with Big Brock Lesnar right after the SmackDown. How you feeling, bro?
Good, man.
That was a lot of fun. My first time getting to watch him do his thing, and he was a beast out there. The people loved him.
Thank you.
Yeah, good time.
Now we're going to talk about the rivalry of Jon Jones and another former UFC heavyweight champion and one of the biggest stars of the promotion, Brock Lesnar. It all started after Bones' win in the rematch with Daniel Cormier at UFC 214 on July the 9th of 2017.
Brock Lesnar.
If you want to know what it feels like to get your ass kicked by a guy who weighs 40 pounds less than you, meet me in the octagon.
After his return, Jones called out the Beast, whose last appearance in the octagon took place in the last summer when he beat Mark Hunt. but due to a positive doping test, the result of the fight had to be cancelled. To many people's surprise, this idea was highly supported. We're not talking about the fans right now, even Dana White himself got interested.
Lesnar just told the AP, be careful what you wish for, young man. Well, Brock Lesnar, first of all, I haven't talked to Brock Lesnar. Even if he came back USADA, he's got to wait 6 months and be on the program for 6 months. So he'll fight somebody before that. I don't know who right here off the top of my head, but he'll fight again. Listen, I'm interested in whatever interests the fans. Brock Lesnar is always interesting.
After this tournament, the UFC really began to organize the fight. It even reached the stage of negotiations, but at a certain moment, everything got messed up because of unpleasant news. Jones failed his last doping test that found traces of turinabol in his system, which is an anabolic steroid. Unfortunately, we didn't witness this matchup in the main octagon, even though there were chances for that. Number 2. The only loss of Jon Jones. No, we're not talking about Matt Hamill again. Don't be scared. There is an opinion that the legendary Bones lost one of the fights that also happens to be a title defense. And this opinion belongs to not just the fans, critics or journalists, but the judge. Yes, you got it right, ladies and gentlemen. In June of 2019, when Jon Jones once again returned to the title picture and conquered the championship gold, his next defense was against the Brazilian contender Thiago Santos. In the main event of UFC 239, Bones managed to get the victory, but for the first time in his career, it was a split decision. When in the past Bones went the full distance in his performances, eventually the decision was always unanimous and in the champion's favor. But this time, only 2 judges sided with Jones with a score of 48-47, while the third one thought that it was the Brazilian who got the job done. It's the first and only case when the judge did not pick Jon Jones as the winner.
He was extremely powerful. His kicks were powerful, his punches were powerful, and I wanted to play a smart game. It probably would have been a lot smarter to get him to the ground and test him there, but I felt like I was winning at what he was absolute best at. I feel like his team had him optimally prepared. His cardio was great. His punches and kicks were great, and I felt like that was his best. That was his best, and I found a way to win on the feet at what he's absolute best at.
Sure, there are many opinions about other fights featuring Bones, but like those ones with Gustafsson and Reyes, but it's an opinion of the fans, and there is a difference between what the viewers think and the final result, and the result is that in the aforementioned fights, Jon won via unanimous decisions. Number 1. Religion. And to conclude our video, we will tell you about the side of Jon Jones that is hard to believe in, if you look only at his actions, especially in the past. Let's start with the beginning. Jon's father, a priest and a preacher, Arthur Jones Sr., with his 11 brothers and sisters, was raised with a strict accordance to moral and religious values, and he believed that 4 of his children should also forget about the Bible and sacred commandments. No unauthorized walks, hanging out after dark, no parties at friends, and a mandatory attendance of church or Sunday school. Arthur Jr., Jon, Chandler, and older daughter Carmen did not have any video games or even a TV, and the money parents made was barely enough to feed the family. Mother Camilla, who worked as a nurse every day, often asked her daughter to look after the boys. She likes to remember that the family simply didn't have time for entertainment because the kids were always busy, and based on what the brothers said, they were okay with that. At those times, they were naive church kids deprived of any socialization because of the danger on the streets of Rochester. One time, Johns and Arthur, who is a year older, got their bikes stolen, and it would be a regular story if underage robbers did not ask the brothers to close their eyes and count to 30 prior to that. As they opened their eyes and didn't see their bikes, they rushed home and cried on their mother's shoulder. They calmed down only after she drove across the entire town and spotted those bikes dropped at the outskirts. At some point, Jon himself was considering a possibility to become a pastor at a church and follow his father's steps, The family gladly supported that decision, but in the end it didn't work out, and we got the greatest fighter of all time.
It was just a time for me to really evaluate what I thought about religion, and I've decided that I was going to stick with my religion and continue to believe that everything happens for a reason. And now today I look at it this way, you know, we have these 3 pro athletes and we're all happy with our lives, and then we have a sister who's in heaven watching it front row.
The faith of Jon Jones never wavered. On the right side of his chest, he has a tattoo, Philippians 4:13, which is a reference to the 13th line of the 4th verse of the book of Philippians in the Bible. It was his late sister's favorite verse. Actually, many people critique and hate Jon, calling him fake. Some say that he is too cocky and never lets the guy forget the moments when he dropped the ball. And the past of Bones, let's be honest, has a lot of nasty incidents, accusations, trials and penalties. There is no doubt about that, unfortunately, but Jones acknowledges that he is not perfect and even calls himself a sinner.
We're all sinners. We're all sinners. We're born into sin. It's our nature to sin. And it's a decision to try to do the right thing. You know, it's a decision to do the right thing when no one's looking, right? And so I think all of us as humans, none of us are shit, and it's our choice to try to be more than. And so I had to say I lean closer to being an imperfect human that's trying to do the right things and be good.
That's why his faith stayed so strong. He always thought that Christianity perfectly fits such sinners like him, who want to repent to become better. Leave your opinion in the comments below. Tell us which of the aforementioned facts resonated with you the most. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the new videos. And of course, hit the like button if you enjoyed this one. See you soon.